Hey folks, welcome back to another video on living in Halifax. I'm Tom Moore, a realtor here in town with RE/MAX. Today we're doing a video on what it's like to live in the north end of Halifax. So this is a very historic neighborhood with a ton of charm, as you can see from the houses behind me. We're close to downtown here, and I would consider it to have one of the highest walkability scores in the city. But more specifically, we're going to be going over what the vibe of the neighborhood is, the housing, transportation, amenities, and the walkability score, as well as some other information that you might find useful. So without further ado, let's get to it. I would consider the North End to be Halifax's kind of artsy community. It's located obviously on the peninsula, close to downtown, so you have that accessibility if you do need to commute downtown, but the North End just has a ton of character. A lot of different people living here. You've got a strong rental base because of its proximity to the downtown, as well as its generally lower rent prices. But you've also got young families, people that have moved to Halifax from outside of the province in recent years, and people who have been in the North End for basically generations, houses that have been passed down. Now, when you talk about the North End, you talk about character, but you also talk about history. This is an area that has been a part of Halifax for a long time, since the founding of the city. And with that, you just get very unique, individualized houses. Now, you'll occasionally be able to find a more modern house, but the name of the game in the North End is really just community, staying together, and enjoying some of the really cute, quaint little shopping districts, as well as the coffee shops that are usually just a block or two away. Now, when we talk about housing, the North End has quite a bit to offer. Obviously, as I mentioned, there's parts of the North End that are incredibly historic and were basically built with the founding of the city. But as you move farther away from the downtown core, you're going to find kind of post-war era homes that were built in the 50s and 60s. So it's really got something for everybody here. Now, when we're talking about the peninsula as a whole, the North End tends to be the cheapest real estate on the peninsula, but it's going to vary in terms of what type of house you buy. So if you've got a large house that's been completely updated with all new features and whatnot, then you're going to have a much higher price point than maybe an older house with 2 bedrooms that hasn't been touched in 40, 50, 60 years. So when it comes to houses, you're going to find a pretty wide variation in between, I would say, upper 200s, low 3s, all the way up into the millions, depending on what you're looking for. Now, the North End currently has a lot of building going on, mainly in regards to apartment buildings as well as some condo buildings. So there is the option to get a condo. They tend to be a little bit further away from downtown, but still probably about a 20-25 minute walk, depending. And if you're looking for an apartment, then the North End is probably the place for you. They're building a lot of inventory right now, and even though we do have that inventory suffering, they're making pretty big strides in the North End to try to alleviate some of that suffering. Well, folks, if you're enjoying this content, be sure to subscribe to this channel. I'm posting videos every week on what it's like living here in Halifax, as well as some neighborhood stuff and some other hot topics that you would want to know about before making a move here. So go ahead, click the like, subscribe, and the bell to get alerted next time I post a video. All right, let's get back to it. Amenities in the North End are plentiful. Now, it's a large neighborhood, so you can kind of divide the neighborhood into micro regions. There's about 3 of them. One's closer to downtown, one's a little closer to the edge of the harbor, and then you've got a region in between. Each one of those has its own shopping district in the form of Gottingen Street, Agricola Street, and then down in the Hydrostone as well. And all of these districts have their own individual mom and pop shops, coffee shops, grocery stores, and its own micro feeling. Now, other than that, you've got a few large parks, and you're never really too far away from the ocean either. So if you're looking to get that outdoor time, you're going to have that in the neighborhood. Now, finally, if you're looking to do some sports or whatnot, the North End actually has a few community pools, as well as soccer fields and baseball diamonds. And you're also bordering the Commons, which is a large park feature close to downtown, and this will give people a great place to go and have a picnic in the summer, or play some baseball or throw the ball around. And also in the winter, the Commons turns into a skating rink that you can take your skates to or rent skates for free and get some outdoor time in the winter as well. Now, as I mentioned before, I would consider the North End to be Halifax's most walkable neighborhood. You have those individual shopping districts, but you also have a bunch of little mom and pop shops within some of the neighborhoods themselves because of really unique zoning. You also have a ton of little bars and holes in the wall, as well as some great restaurants here in the North End, and all those are within walking distance. So you've got a ton of places to explore. You've got parks, restaurants, shops, all at your doorstep. And this is great both in the summer when you're out walking around enjoying nature, and in the winter if you want to kind of creep outside of the house to get maybe a quiet meal or something close to home. The North End is very centrally located on the peninsula, and one part of it does border the downtown core. However, when we're talking about transportation, there's really two main arteries. You've got Gottingen Street that will run from downtown all the way through the neighborhood, and then you've also got Roby Street, which will basically do the same thing, just a little bit further into the peninsula. Now along there, you've got a lot of large arteries as well as bus lanes that will kind of expedite the process to get there. You've even got some bike lanes that run through the neighborhood. But depending on where you are in the North End, if you're at the very back of the North End, you're going to be able to actually probably walk to downtown within about 40 minutes, and that's at the very far end. However, the North End is a long neighborhood that kind of runs along the harbor, and the closer you get to downtown, obviously the shorter your commute is going to be. So you're going to have a few options. You can walk, you can drive, you can bike, or you can take the bus, and the North End is very accessible to the rest of the city. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this quick little video on the North End, what it's like living here, and kind of hopefully gives you a better idea for what it would be like if you were living here. So once again, my name's Tom. I work with RE/MAX here in Halifax as a realtor. If you've got any questions about living in Halifax, the market, if you're thinking of selling, then feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to help. Have a great day.